California, the Speaker of the House, Speaker Pelosi.
The distinguished Speaker of the House is now recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I thank him for his masterful work in not only bringing this legislation to the floor, but working in a bipartisan way to have so many important initiatives in the COVID and the omnibus bill that the President happily for us signed last evening. I thank him for his initiatives that are job-creating, that stimulate the economy and help meet the needs of the American people. I'm interested in the comments made by Mr. Brady because he said we could be putting more money into small business, and we do indeed in the COVID package, around $300 billion. And I think it's important to note, Madam Speaker, that brings it to about almost $1 trillion since March 27th, 28th, when the President signed the CARES Act, about $950 billion for small business, nearly $1 trillion. Very important. Small business is the heart of our economy. What could be more optimistic for anyone to do but to follow their dreams, start a small business, create jobs, create wealth, create capital? So important. We see the importance of that to the tune of about $1 trillion, just under $1 trillion in these past several months. But if you want to talk about job creation, I hope the gentleman will join us when we go forward to do state and local, our healthcare workers, honoring our heroes. They're at risk of losing their jobs. While they risk their lives to save lives, they may lose their jobs, and over 1 million of them have. We're talking about healthcare workers. We're talking about police and fire, our first responders. We're talking about transportation, sanitation, food workers. We're talking about our teachers, the custodians of our children for a large part of their day. They are at risk of losing their jobs because of the failure of the Republican side of the aisle to support funds for state and local government to honor our heroes. We want to honor them. When we cheer them, we applaud them. Let's give them pay. Let's let them have job security. Let's give them PPE, the equipment that they need to do their jobs. So if we want to talk about saving jobs or growing jobs for the purpose the distinguished gentleman from Texas mentioned, how we're going to focus on the distribution and the administration of the vaccine. Where do you think that happens but in city and county and state hospitals in large measure, by healthcare workers in those places, wherever it is distributed on an individual basis. But they are the heart of the matter. And that is why we need to go forward with another bill that invests in our state and local governments, not to talk about government, but to talk about services, healthcare services, education, transportation, making our lives possible, making our very existence possible by what they do. And without them, how do we function? So again, let's create jobs, let's save jobs, let's grow jobs by administering this vaccine as fairly, as equitably as possible, and free to everyone in our country, because if we're not protected, none of us is. Unless all of us are protected, none of us is protected. So this $2,000, which thank you for bringing to the floor on Christmas Eve, was roundly rejected by a Republican that asked for unanimous consent. This could already be exist as a law if that had happened, but it didn't. So now today we have another chance. Some of the Republicans said, oh, if they really wanted that, they would have called for a vote that day. That wasn't true. It's important to note that was a pro forma session, and you had to have the consent of the Republicans to bring the bill to the floor. They withheld their consent. So here we are today in a legislative day where we just act with the majority to bring the legislation to the floor. I hope it will enjoy a strong bipartisan support. The President of the United States has put this forth as something that he wants to see in terms of, and part of his signing the legislation yesterday. I hope that that view will be shared by the Republicans in the Senate, because we will pass this bill today, either under suspension or under a rule where it just requires a majority vote. Under suspension, as you know, 2/3 vote requires a large number of Republican votes, which I hope we will have, because I do think that the American people would love to see that unity on their behalf. We are a consumer economy. Putting money into the hands of the American people is a boost to our economy. Not much. This isn't a big stimulus package. The COVID bill is a emergency supplemental, but this piece will make it something very important to sustaining our economy. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the work that your committee did. Brandon, thank him, and the others for putting in the dependent clause that people had to, if otherwise you had 16 years and under would get the direct payment. But I mean, as a mother of 5 and grandmother of 9, I know that children are dependent after 16 years of old, especially if they're still in school. And there are others who are dependent because of, for one thing and another, some physical challenges that they may have in life. Who knows what goes on in a family? But nonetheless, if they are dependent, they will be receiving the direct payment. Another important boost for America's working families, another important boost for our economy as we go forward. So let me again thank the chairman for his work. It's a simple vote. We put more money. Our goals have been crush the virus, honor our heroes who help us crush the virus, and put money in the pockets of the American people. Today, we would be doing that right now. Legislation will be a lifeline for millions of Americans. It improves on the previously passed relief bill by including dependents, ensuring that families with children in colleges, adults living with disabilities, or elderly family members can also receive relief. Republicans have a choice. Vote for this legislation or vote to deny the American people the bigger paychecks they need. To reject this would be in denial of the economic challenges that people are facing, and it would deny them, again, the relief they need. And with that, I urge a strong bipartisan vote for the aptly named Cash Act. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman from California, the Speaker of the House, yields back. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves, and the gentleman from Texas.